And this is why we need to do all this, right?
Yeah.
Kick off this meeting, the Thursday, April 24th meeting of Peninsula Clean Energy. Thank you. Nellie, are we online?
We are online.
All right, and we're recording.
We are recording.
All righty. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We have a call to order. Nellie, can we please have a roll call?
Absolutely. When I call your jurisdiction, if you'll please state your name. San Mateo County,
Lisa Gaucher.
San Mateo County. And we're just gonna give her a moment. Please get online. Supervisor Spear. Supervisor Spear, can you hear us?
Jackie Spear, I can now, I was muted.
Great, thank you. And you are attending tonight under AB 2449 with a just cause exemption. Is there anyone else in the room with you over the age of 18?
No,
Great, thank you. And if you could please keep your video on for the remainder of the meeting, that would be great.
I will.
Okay, Atherton.
Rick DeGolia.
Thank you. Belmont.
Tom McCune.
Thank you. Brisbane.
Pauline Atkins.
Burlingame.
Donna Colson.
Colma.
Ben Gonzalez.
Daly City.
Rondos Megwa,
Thank you. East Palo Alto.
Carlos Romero,
Thank you. Foster City.
Stacy Jimenez.
Thank you. Half Moon Bay.
Johnson.
Oh, hi, Director Johnson. You are also participating under AB 2449 for a just cause exemption. Can you please let us know if there's anybody else over 18 in the room with you?
The next one over where it says,
Director Johnson, sorry, we can hear yours, or I can hear your response.
I don't think we've had one yet.
Raise your hand if you hear it.
Yeah, it's like.
Director Johnson, can you hear us?
We can't hear him.
Brandon, could you please send him a
Yes.
message? Oh, there you
Yes.
are. Perfect. Is there anyone else in the room with you over the age of 18?
No, there's nobody here.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. If you'll please keep your video on for the remainder of the meeting. Thank you.
We've seen.
Hillsborough.
Thank
Thank you. Los Banos.
Michael Amaville,
Thank you. Menlo Park.
Betsy Nash.
Millbrae.
Andrew Swallow.
Zithica.
Christine Bull.
Portola Valley.
Greg Taylor.
Redwood City.
Homer Martinez.
San Bruno.
Marty Medina.
San Carlos. San Mateo.
Adam Lorraine.
Thank you. South San Francisco. And Woodside.
Hassan Aberdeen.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And we have a quorum.
All right, fantastic. We're gonna go ahead and open it up to public comment. If there's anyone either online or in the room who would like to make a comment around something that is not on the agenda. Of course, we cannot respond, but we'd be happy to take it. Do we have anyone, Nellie, online?
If there are any members of the public who are online who would like to give comment, if you'll please raise your hand in the Zoom platform.
Anyone behind me? Ken, you're in charge. Let me know. Okay,
No
great.
hands.
No hands. All right. So we have no public comment. We're going to move on to action to set the agenda and to approve the consent agenda items. We have two. Is there anyone in this room that wants to pull something, or any member of the public that has asked to pull a consent item? Looks like no. All right. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Oh, wow.
Sweet.
Okay, we're gonna go with
Pacifica.
yes,
Director Bowles.
Director Bowles, sorry. Director
Second.
Bowles is the first and Director Gaucher is the second. Thank you. May we have a roll call vote, please?
San Mateo County.
Yes,
Yes. Oh, which San Mateo County?
Sorry, I'll call it twice. First, San Mateo County is gonna be Director Gaucher, and then second will be Director Spear.
Okay.
So, San Mateo County.
Yes.
Okay, San Mateo County.
yes,
Atherton.
Yes.
Belmont.
Aye.
Brisbane.
Yes.
Burlingame.
Yes.
Colma.
Yes.
Daly City.
Yes.
East Palo Alto.
Yes.
Foster City.
Yes.
Half Moon Bay.
Yes.
Hillsborough.
Yes.
Los Banos.
Yes.
Menlo Park,
Yes.
Millbrae,
Aye.
Pacifica,
Yes.
Portola Valley,
Aye.
Redwood City,
Yes.
San Bruno,
Yes.
San Carlos, San Mateo,
Yes.
South San Francisco, Woodside.
Yes.
Thank you, and the motion carries.
All right. So we have a very packed agenda tonight, so we're gonna really try to stick to all the time. And I'm gonna ask anyone presenting to really tighten up everything that they have to say so we can get out of here by 8:30. So the first item up is the chair report. A little slide for me, we have a slide. Oh, go back. Okay, the board ad hoc committee reviews, standing committee evaluation, we're gonna recommend the establishment of a 6 to 7 month board ad hoc committee to review the scope and the operations and effectiveness of PCE's Standing Ground Act committees to ensure operational functionality, value and service to the agency, looking forward to for the next 5 years. We're gonna start, you can see the little list there, Community Advisory, the CAC, the Executive Committee and Audit and Finance. How often are they meeting? Do we have the right size? Are they dealing with the right issues? Are they functioning as they should be? We'll benchmark against other CCA practices. We're going to probably send out a brief survey, some sort of interviews to talk to people and see what their comments are. We're gonna evaluate the committees as units of PCE governance, not based on, how people are participating. So, if there's a committee that, for example, no one's showing up at the meetings, that doesn't mean the committee is bad. It just means we need to figure out how to get people to the meetings. So it's really gonna be focused more on the governance and not so much the people or the folks that are working on them as it stands. And then we'll have a report out to the board. So we may have some amendments to policy 16 and board and committee operations. We do this like every 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. It's just a good operational procedure to just take a look at what everybody else is doing and benchmark ourselves. We're going to send out a board of directors survey. We're going to recommend survey of the full board to receive feedback on board operations, staff and support, suggested changes and improvements. So, that will be confidential. You can send it in. We're hoping to get 100% improvement. And the last time we did something like that was in July of 23. So we're coming up on 2 years and a whole new board. So we wanted to really get, kind of moving on this. And the proposed ad hoc evaluation committee members who have all already agreed to this and work with me on this would be me, Marty as vice chair, Colleen Mackin, Leslie Ragsdale, and Craig Taylor. So I think it's a nice disbursement of people throughout the county and people who've been on for a long time, a medium term and shorter term. So we'll have a lot of perspectives. Any questions on that? No? Okay. Oh, come on, Sean, I know you
I
can
know.
do this.
Nellie, do you have one of
Oh,
those
there
up
we
there?
go. My second item is interim appointments to the Executive Committee and Audit and Finance. We're making them interim because we're still waiting for one more confirmation, and then we will have them on for full approval, but they can participate. So on our executive committee, I would like to welcome Lisa Gaucher from County of San Mateo. Leslie Ragsdale is going to move from finance over to executive committee, and Adam Lorraine has agreed as well from the city of San Mateo. And the audit and finance committee, I would like to welcome Elmer Martinez, thank you, who has agreed to join Carlos. And we have one more open seat to be filled in May, where we have asked Mayor Emaville from Los Banos to participate. So we're waiting to hear back from him. And if he does not, if anyone's interested in it, we meet about 6 times a year on the second Monday of the month at 8:30. And I'd be happy to consider anyone else. And I think Marty had some ideas too. So you can just email me if you're interested, and we'll keep a running list if somebody doesn't fill it. Moving on to the next, okay, your report. My last comment will be, I have asked Director DeGolia and Vice Chair Medina to assist me in kicking off Sean's annual CEO review. We're gonna use the same process that we did last year. I am going to be calling some of the board members, and I'm willing, if anyone has anything they want to discuss with me, I'm gonna make some phone calls to sort of see, if people have any feedback or anything. We're also going to do, we have an evaluation rubric. Sean will complete her own self-evaluation relative to her own goals for this year. She'll set up her goals for next year. The three of us will do a comprehensive evaluation of did she meet, where have we fallen short, everything. I'll bring, and then as well, I'm gonna reach out to some of the executive committee members and people who are leading some of our teams that are working closely with the staff. And then what we'll do is, the goal will be to bring this back in May to have a closed session discussion of compensation and a review with Sean. And then would be to bring it back based on that feedback in June for a public agenda item with all the details of her contract and her compensation for approval. So we can roll her contract over, which effectively starts, it's a year to year, July 1st. So that is kind of the timeline. Everyone okay with that? Yes. Okay, great. Thank you all very much. Please feel free to reach out to me if you want to share any feedback. We are delighted to take it. With that, I'll turn it over to Sean.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I should ask if there's any public comment. Okay. Ken's in charge. Yeah. Thank you, Ken. No public comment. We'll go ahead and close that item and move on to item number 4. Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Okay, so I have an update on a number of items this evening, along with Mark and Shalini, who will be reporting on legislative update and a regulatory update. I'm going to kick off. The executive committee is aware of this. We reported this out earlier this month, but we now have a formally adopted new innovation strategy department. We've been talking about this. You may have heard us use the terminology, but we decided to formalize it in order to really be ready for all of the work that's happening already this year, but into the next several years as we adopt our strategic plan and lots of activity around DE, distributed energy resources, microgrids, et cetera. We'll talk more about that this evening. So there are basically 4 pillars to the department: supporting organizational strategy, innovation and new areas of work. So sort of acting as an incubator for the agency, or the lead when new things come in that require cross-departmental collaboration. That'll be led by IS until such time they're operational. Then it will be passed off to the appropriate department, mostly programs. Already have been working on revenue diversification to find typically public sources of money to support our various program efforts. Already this year, under Yana Kobachuk-Landa's leadership, we have secured 1.2 million in SGIP funding, which we'll talk about in a minute. And then somewhere in the 10 million-ish, we think, range for building decarbonization from the Building Decarb Institute to do more whole home programs and more on the horizon. So that's already underway. And then just offering subject matter expertise both in the policy and regulatory arena. So it's an exciting development, an opportunity for us to really grow into new business, lines of business, and new advanced energy technology. So we're very excited about that. I do want to say that Yana, who's been with us for over a year now, will be leading up that department. So congratulations to Yana. And we'll have more to say about that as we go. Mark, do you want to do a brief legislative update? And then you'll follow. Okay.
Yes.
Good evening, directors. Mark Hirschman, Director of Government Affairs. Want to update you on some of the bills that were outlined in the packet that you received earlier in the week. The Pathways Initiative, SB 540, Senator Becker's initiative, was heard in the Senate Energy Committee earlier this week. It was passed out of that committee. It was double referred, meaning it was sent to 2 different committees, which has to pass before it can get to the floor of the legislature. And so the next hearing is next week in the Senate Judiciary Committee. And we have 2 distinguished guests with us this evening to talk a little bit more and lead a discussion on that bill. AB 1372, that's the Caltrain regenerative braking bill. That is set for a hearing next week, and we continue to work with the author and with Caltrain to understand and share information there. There are 3 bills that we've discussed that relate to battery energy storage systems, AB 303, SB 283, and AB 1285. AB 303 has not been moving. It was triple referred, which is somewhat unusual, and has not yet received a hearing in any of those committees. SB 283 was passed out of the Senate committee earlier this week, the Energy Committee, and 1285 it relates to emergency management, and that was passed out of their committee earlier this week. There is a bill that many of you have reached out about and was introduced late in March, early April. It is AB 942. It is set for a hearing next week. This is the bill that would potentially convert NEM 1 and NEM 2 contracts into NBT and terminate the NEM benefits after 10 years. Of particular interest to Peninsula Clean Energy is the fact that we have a number of these Gov PV projects. These are solar panels on government buildings, and how this might implicate the benefits that we have shared with you are accruing to the various jurisdictions. So we're looking closely at that, and we'll evaluate that, but appreciate hearing your comments on that. Building code section revisions, AB 306. Was passed off the floor of the Assembly earlier, I believe earlier this month, unanimously. It is now headed to the Senate, where it was double referred, so it has to pass through 2 policy committees, and we'll see how it fares there. And I wanted to mention a letter of support that we sent in this week. That is AB 526. This is a bill. Assemblymember Pappen had a number of bills you may recall last year that we supported related to geothermal energy development, and this was in keeping with our policy in support of that, and so we did send in a letter of support as that was heard in committee and did pass out of that committee. Lastly, I want to highlight something that has just happened this week. There's been a lot of activity on the affordability issue in Sacramento. It's certainly important to all of us. Senator Becker introduced SB 254. The bill, I believe, is about 161 pages in length. So we just received it yesterday, and we're digesting it and taking a look, and discussions are ongoing, but it's already set for a hearing next week. Certainly affordability is an urgency matter for the entire state and for Peninsula Clean Energy. And also want to mention that Assembly Speaker Rivas has created 4 select committees. Select committees do not have the same authority as a standing committee, but they can hold informational hearings, and often those result in legislative ideas. And one of those is a select committee on transportation costs and the impact of the low carbon fuel standard. So we'll look forward to hearing more about that. And just wanted to briefly mention on the federal side, we are working very closely with other CCAs and other organizations. A particular interest and concern is the investor tax credit and the tax bill that's protecting energy credits that is moving ahead in the House of Representatives. And so look forward to being able to influence that. We are reaching out to developers of energy projects. They may not be in our district, but they may be in other districts where influential legislators reside. And that's the report. Any questions? Happy to answer them.
All right.
Okay, no questions. We're gonna go now to Shalini, next up.
Sure, I'm happy to give a regulatory engagement and recent wins update. So the first thing is that in October 2024, we hosted a good amount, probably 15 or so CPUC staffers to accompany us on a few buses and go on a right sizing tour of some of our projects. So essentially, right sizing is the philosophy that if Jen, Director Medina and I all want to eat pizza, should we buy 3 pizzas or should we get 1 pizza for the 3 of us? And the way we apply this right sizing analogy to electricity is, do we need to upgrade every line that goes to every house? Or do we just need to make sure that the lines, that the load on the line is what the line can serve? And is there technology that can help us do that? So we showed the CPUC staffers a house that had been fully electrified under 200 amps. And then we also showed them a multifamily building with many level 1 chargers. And so the level 1 chargers are a fraction of the cost of the level 2 chargers that are more widely spread throughout the state. So we were really trying to show that, you know, you can reduce costs and get more bang for the buck if you right size your service line and your other electrification needs. So after that tour, just a couple weeks ago, mid-April, the CPUC released a proposed decision in which they endorsed some right-sizing principles. They said that electric utilities should give customers their peak demand and service line capacity information, so that customers know if they have to upgrade their lines or not. A lot of times customers just sort of automatically upgrade their lines because they don't know what they'll need. And also they're going to provide reimbursement for some load switching and load reducing technologies. So you can, you know, plug your car and your dryer into the same plug, and that plug can smartly switch between them depending on the need. So we're really excited to see the concepts that we have talked to the CPUC about in a proposed decision. And, you know, a proposed decision still has a comment period. It still needs to be voted out by the commission, but we're very heartened to see our influence on this particular issue, because affordability, as Mark was saying, is a very important issue for everyone in California right now when it comes to electricity bills. And by our team's calculations, right-sizing electrification can save up to $15 to $20 billion over the next 40 years. So it's really important. So I'm really happy to share that. We also had a meeting between our senior procurement staff and the CPUC's senior leadership and procurement about PCE's 24/7 procurement strategy and the lessons we've learned along the way, which the board has been intimately involved with. So I think I was actually saying this over dinner that we learn a lot in periods of struggle. And I think the way that we've really wrestled with the 24/7 opportunity over the last few years through all the unexpected, you know, COVID shortages, supply chain delays, I think we've learned so much. And so I'm really excited that the state can benefit from our lessons learned, and we will continue to be able to share that knowledge with them. So I think they really appreciated it. Separately, we've done just many sort of routine meetings. We had a ex parte, which means just outside the normal bounds of the commission proceeding. We had a meeting on PCIA with the assigned commissioner's office, Commissioner Reynolds. And then Yana's been leading multiple ex parte meetings with several commissioners' offices on our self-generation incentive program, which Sean will talk a bit more about later. And then Yana is also leading a staff meeting on the self-generation incentive program. And this is to ensure that our customers can get maximum value for some statewide funding that Sean will talk about later. So overall, I'm happy to give the regulatory update on behalf of our amazing regulatory team and happy to take any questions.
Great.
Thank you. Great. All right, not quite. I'll be quick here. So this is an exciting development. It's been a long time coming. PCE's first community solar project located in Dos Palos went live about 10 days ago, I believe. It's a 3 megawatt project serving 2,600 low-income customers. They receive a 20% discount on electric generation charges, resulting in about $700,000 of annual savings total for those customers. Importantly, those costs are reimbursed by the CPUC. So this is a CPUC DAC, what they call Disadvantaged Communities Green Tariff Program, under which PCE adopted the tariff for our customers, and now we have steel in the ground serving that need. So that's an exciting development. Just a grab bag of other things. So Shalini referenced the self-generation incentive program. Now that is a program that allows income qualified customers to receive funding for battery storage. And in the next phase, a combination of solar plus storage. That is funding that is coming from the state. As I mentioned earlier, we have 1.2 million reserved for our customers thus far, serving 70 low income. That is thus far. So hopefully more to come with that. Did want to let you all know that the Wright battery energy storage project, we are keeping it alive, but it is tough in this tariff environment right now. Many of the components of battery energy storage come from China. And the current tariff is 145%, as you all know. So we are in a little bit of a holding pattern, hoping to bring that to your board in May for approval. But right now, it's in the developer's court. So just giving you a heads up there. A heads up also that we will be issuing an RFP for our EV Ready program technical assistance. We've had a contract with Clear Result for multiple years that is ending. So just heads up that that'll be coming out. And then we've added a social media FAQ at the end of your agenda packet, so you understand different language and what we're up to there. Next week is the Cal CCA conference. I believe Director DeGolia is going to be there. I think Director Medina, are you going to? Director Fung is going. So thank you for that. We are representing PCE on 6 different panels across a number of topics, as you can see here. So just wanted to let you know that our expertise is, I think will be well represented next week. Excited about that. Thank you to all of our staff and volunteers who are supporting many Earth Day projects. The picture on the right is Justin Pine, who just yesterday spoke at Gilead's Earth Day in Foster City to a packed house, as I understand it. We are also, just FYI, letting you know that we're partnering with Silicon Valley Community Energy on a local government dinner related to our REACH codes. As you know, that's they're under attack, I think would be the right word, through AB 306. And we just want to talk about sort of what we've accomplished through those REACH codes and what some opportunities and different strategies might be to keep that going. So you will all receive an invitation. Nellie will be managing it for Brown Act participation. And that is May 29th. To let you know, Alejandra Posada, who I think many of you know, she's been in our programs department. She's going to be the first official staff person working in, besides Yana, working in Innovation Strategy Department as a business operations project manager. We got many applications for our summer internships, so we're in the process of sifting and sorting. There will be 4 interns this year. And then we do have 1 opening, that's Alejandra's current position. We're now posting for programs manager residential. So if you know anyone who's interested, please let them know. These are upcoming May meetings, and that concludes my report.
All right, okay. Any public comment on the CEO report? Okay, great, thank you again. Good teamwork. We're moving to the CAC. Is Jason here? Yep, great, thank you, Jason.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you, Chair Colson, honorables PC board, staff, members of the community. I'm delighted to share with you what occurred at the PC Community Advisory Committee meeting from April 10th, 2025. First, the Community Advisory Committee heard a presentation from staff. Person Andrew Swin, Associate Director of Community Relations and Climate Equity, gave an overview of Peninsula Clean Energy's key messages and talking points going forward as we prepare for Earth Day and Earth Week and Earth Month and Earth Year. And many members are participating in those events and messaging. I'll be there with you guys Saturday, I think in Menlo Park. I have to check where I'm going, but somewhere, and it'll be great. Next, we heard from Peter Levitt, Senior Manager of Distributed Energy Programs, who introduced the Distributed Energy Resources Plan, including proposed goals and strategies similar to what you guys heard last month. We unanimously passed a very concise following recommendation. The CAC supports the proposed goals in the Distributed Energy Resources Plan. Next, the CAC heard from Ms. Andrew Swin again on the community advocacy, and we saw the video recognizing community advocates and cities for leadership in REACH codes. Ms. Andrew Swin also announced the e-bikes program will launch soon, and we celebrated what we've been doing. We also heard from our member, Robert Whitehair, who reported an update on the strategic plan working groups plans, which is mostly to plan more plans and to follow up on those. We then discussed our upcoming topics for the future. We have a big meeting planned this upcoming month. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I want to keep it because I just want to hear what you guys are going to do tonight with the rest of the meeting. But if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you very much. If you want me to answer any public comment, I'm here. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair Mendelson, appreciate it. Okay, item number 6 is briefing on SB 540 Becker Bill, Western Pathways Bill, discussion item. I have Mark, participating will be Mark Hirschman, our Director of Legislative Affairs, Evie Kong, General Counsel and Chief Policy Officer at CalCCA, Loretta Lynch, former CPUC Commissioner, Energy Consultant. How, Sean, would you like them to present up here one at a time?
Yes, thank you. So just quick bit of context. I think you all know that Peninsula Clean Energy has taken a support position on this bill. We responded to an inquiry or request from Supervisor Spear to hold a discussion on this bill. So that's the invitations that we have, and I want to thank our speakers. We'll go ahead and kick off with Evie Call, who is with us from via Zoom. And we've got about 5 to 7 minutes. Evie, thank you so much. And then we'll follow up with Loretta Lynch, who I believe is here with us tonight for her take, answer a couple of questions, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so Evie, are you?
I'm ready.
All right, and we can run the slides for you if you like.
Terrific, that'd be great. So thanks to all of you for including me in the discussion tonight. It's a really important topic, and I think it's particularly important here because we have Senator Becker now carrying SB 540, which was a very courageous act on his part. Over the past 18 months, I've been privileged to be working with a broad group of regional stakeholders across the West on the Pathways Initiative, which has now grown into SB 540. And what we're trying to do with this initiative is to expand the geographic footprint of existing markets. And the reason we're doing that is because it will bring greater benefits to California consumers like PCE's customers and across 3 metrics. So affordability, reliability, and climate. And to achieve that goal, what we need to do is move the market from a board that is appointed by California to a more regionally representative board. There are a number of important market participants who don't want to participate in the market that is governed solely by California, and they are interested in joining the Southwest Power Pool's alternative, the Markets Plus alternative. And that would split the West, isolate California, and leave all these benefits on the table for our customers. So let's begin with a look at the structure of our electricity markets so that we can get a platform to discuss this. So what we're talking about is the California Independent System Operator, and think of it as a conductor of an orchestra. If the generating facilities and the wires are the instruments and the electricity is the music. So they are the conductor here. And their role can be divided roughly into 6 functions. First is transmission planning. Second, transmission system operations and cost allocation. They serve as the balancing authority, which means they're just assuring that supply matches demand in their area at each and every moment. They do reliability coordination for the West, and they run energy markets. And as a part of those energy markets, they're doing 2 things. They are doing operations, running the dispatch models, all the software, and they are making the rules together with the stakeholder process. They are governed by a 5-member board appointed by the governor and confirmed by the Senate. But importantly, sitting above that board is the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. And today what they do is approve or reject what our board or the CAISO board proposes for their tariffs. And they can also set broad policy on wholesale markets and transmission. So that's what's happening today. If you'd flip to the next tab. So what's happening in SB 540 is a very narrow move. So what we're doing is we're taking the
Sorry.
We're Don't touch it.
Don't touch it. Okay.
Sorry, Abby,
You
1
said it
second.
doesn't work.
1
and it
second.
works.
It's-
That's okay. There we are. Let's just stay there.
All
Yeah.
right.
Thanks. So what's happening is we're taking that one box at the end there, the energy market rules, and we're moving that out from under the CAISO 5-member California board, and we're moving it instead under a regional board that'll have 7 members, and there'll be representatives from across the West. Just like the CAISO is today, that regional organization or RO will be governed by FERC in the same way. FERC will approve or reject tariffs, and they have the authority to set policy. Next slide. What's really important here is what's not changing. There are a lot of different things that California does that are solely within our jurisdiction that won't be changing. They're going to remain within California's jurisdiction, overseen largely by the PUC, outside the scope of FERC jurisdiction. And they're things that are near and dear to our hearts. We'll be able to choose what resources get built in California through the integrated resource planning process. Our renewable portfolio standard and greenhouse gas targets will remain in place, and those policies can be fulfilled. Resource adequacy will be a California jurisdictional matter as it is today. Retail rates, low-income programs, distribution planning, energy efficiency, transportation electrification, solar rooftops, wildfire safety, all of these things that are important remain solely within California jurisdiction, untouched by FERC. Next slide. So why are we doing all this? Why are we going to this trouble of shifting the governance into an independent organization? And the reason is we want to expand the footprint, and the only way we do that is through independence of that market governance. And the reason we want to do that is because passing SB 540 would improve consumer outcomes when you compare it especially with a do-nothing scenario. That do-nothing scenario where we split the market into two markets and lose all the benefits. So what are the benefits we're getting here? The first is an increased economic benefit. So if you compare doing nothing with SB 540, the delta is around $500 million a year to California consumers. Along with that, we get reliability. And what it'll bring to us is during emergency conditions, we'll have an extra supply cushion of 25 gigawatts, and that's pretty substantial. And it's 25 gigawatts more than they'll have with respect to a do-nothing scenario. We'll have reduced emissions compared with do-nothing, both in the West, the WEC, the Western Electricity Coordinating Council, and within California. And in fact, emissions, the Brattle Group just completed a revision to their study, and the emissions will drop by about 60% from 2024 to 2032 in California, and about 25% across the West. And last, there will be a reduction in the gas-fired generation that's operated in California. Again, it's 50% greater than the reduction that you would get if you do nothing. And along with that comes the criteria pollutant emissions reductions, which are really important. So these are the benefits we're after. Next slide. And, we're not suggesting that California go jump off a cliff and trust the universe, although that's a very California thing to do. But there are a lot of protective guardrails that have been put into the proposal that's been built, and also into SB 540. And these are just summaries of a lot of the provisions that are in there. But first, there's an obligation to respect state authority and policies. There is extensive public input and transparent processes. I could go through and list all of the different inputs, but there are some that are new that are even beyond what the CAISO does today. For example, there will be an Office of Public Participation. There will be a Public Policy Committee of the board, and there will be a new consumer advocate organization funded by the new regional organization. So there's a lot of process and public input happening. They will have to facilitate compliance with California greenhouse gas emissions programs and probably other states as well. There will be market monitoring and analysis. And I have to say, the risk of market manipulation certainly isn't going to increase because we're bringing over the same monitoring program, but it'll decrease because fundamental economic theory says the bigger and more liquid the market, the less room there is for manipulation. And then finally, the CAISO is going to continue to operate the market. As you saw in the slide a bit back, we're only transferring control over those rules, but the CAISO is going to continue to operate the market, dispatching every day and maintaining most of the staff. So that's a quick summary of what's going on. I think it's really important to understand the time is critical now. The time is here for market participants to choose, will we go with Markets Plus with the Southwest Power Pool, or will we take a bet with the CAISO in its future plans with this regional organization? And, you know, it's time, and people have been waiting for California to get on the ball for many years. We've been unable to pass a bill, and I think SB 540 is one that people are finally getting around. You know, it came out of committee last week, 17-0 out of the Energy and Utilities and Communications Committee. So I think it's doing well thus far. So I'd be happy to take any questions you have and explore this a little bit more if you're interested.
Thank you very much, Evelyn. We'll go to Loretta next, and then we'll consolidate questions at the end if it's everyone's pleasure. All right.
Oh, is that, sorry, Evie? Is this slide here?
Yeah, I didn't have time, so I just cut it off.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, please.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me on Zoom? So I'm going to take the 7 minutes that Evie took as well. So thank you for the opportunity to tell you why I and over 100 other environmental, consumer protection, indivisible, and labor union groups oppose SB 540. And just note that 2 weeks ago, the board of AVA Energy, once they had the opportunity to vote as a board, voted to oppose SB 540. California faces punishing electricity bills, and they're way too expensive. We all know that. But SB 540 does nothing, absolutely nothing, to reduce those bills. There are lots of ways we could do that. Happy to talk about that, but that's not tonight. What SB 540 does do is it makes California and our current state environmental laws more vulnerable to Trump and to the new Trump FERC. So the first slide here is just a map of all the electricity markets in the United States. You'll see California, Texas, and New York all have a single state electricity market. And then you can see on the west, there's the CAISO. It's a California corporation created in the 1996 Energy Deregulation Law, and it runs both our electricity markets and our grid. But take a look at that beige area. All those other Western states, not a one of them are in a FERC jurisdictional electricity market right now, and many of them don't plan to change. They have traditional regulation where the state PUC regulates the vertically integrated utilities. In fact, look at how many of them have what we used to have until 2000. Note that all the studies that support this bill assume that all those 10 Western other states are going to join this regional market. But joining a regional market is voluntary. And many of those states have indicated no interest, and in fact have indicated an interest not to join this market. But the modeling assumes, all the modeling and all the benefits that there are talked about assumes that everybody's going to jump in the regional market pool. But not only all the Western states, British Columbia Hydro as well. And I'll bet you dinner if a Canadian utility is going to join a Trump FERC jurisdictional corporation anytime soon. So the modeling really needs to be redone. And in fact, I believe that the author has agreed to that. So the central question here is, does SB 540 create this new golden era of regional cooperation where we're going to get more supplies and and lower prices, or does it make California more vulnerable to FERC? And what proponents fail to tell you when they tell you with all those boxes is that nothing's really going to change except for one box, because the CAISO must already follow FERC rules, and that's true today and it's going to be true tomorrow. Well, the problem is that one box that we're moving is the very most important box legally. In fact, that's the box that protects California from Trump, the Trump FERC, and also from those other Western states who have said that they want to join, many of whom's political leaders don't believe in climate change. And somebody just handed me this and I'm not sure how to use it, so we'll find out. Oh, there we go. So this slide contains current California law that the CAISO must follow, mandated to follow when it runs California's electricity market. And this just lists section 345.5B, which was one of the 3 key protections that California enacted with Supervisor Spears' leadership when she was in the state Senate after the energy crisis to protect Californians. Read the requirements. CAISO, under California law, must run the electricity markets to minimize cost to California's consumers and maximize the availability of electricity needed by California consumers. Moreover, CAISO must run the markets consistent with state laws intended to protect the public's health and the environment. And that means that CAISO today cannot propose a market rule to FERC that conflicts with any of our state laws. But that's not what SB 540 does. It abrogates section 345.5B and allows both the CAISO and the new regional market operator to run the regional markets in lieu of, that's the statutory language, that section. That means it's in lieu of California law. Most importantly, in lieu of that particular section that we passed after the energy crisis. That creates a troubling new precedent because it exempts a California corporation from following California's other laws. And it exempts the CAISO, if it runs the regional market or the regional market operator, from following California's public health and other environmental laws. It also, of course, removes the mandate to run the markets to minimize costs and maximize availability of electricity. Proponents claim in the Brattle study, which is the sole evidence for the environmental and cost benefits, they claim environmental benefits. And Evie just talked to you about the percentage increases and decreases in GHG emissions. This is a page from the Brattle study, and you'll see on the right, while percentages may be up or down, the absolute amount of CO2 pollution that will be created by the most likely market scenario, where not all 10 states plus British Columbia join, but the 4 or 5 other states who've actually said they might join would join. It will increase pollution across the West. So the Brattle's own study data, when you look at the data and not the obscured percentage numbers, show that a million tons of CO2 emissions will be reduced in California, but 3 million tons of CO2 emissions will occur across the West. That means the Brattle study proves that SB 540 and this new regional market will violate SB 100. And Brattle finds minimal cost savings. They only gave me 5 slides, so I didn't bring my cost savings slide. Of less than 300 million, projected to start only in 2032, 7 years from now. No data was provided about what the costs are going to be in the next 6 years, when Californians most desperately need actual cost reductions. And actually, Senator Becker admits that the Brattle study needs to be updated with more correct assumptions, because the Brattle study does not take into account, no fault to the Brattle study, was published in January, the 100 days of the Trump death march and policy changes, which it has to take into account because that affects both costs and pollution. So under SB 540, what we know is the following. This slide shows our true vulnerability. It's a map of the Berkshire Hathaway owned coal plants throughout the West and the Berkshire Hathaway owned coal utilities throughout the West, which are located primarily in the states, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, that have indicated any interest in joining in a regional market with California, but only if California cedes control to a new corporation that doesn't have to follow California's environmental or public health laws. This new regional operator is going to be free to file tariffs at FERC that conflict with California's environmental laws, thereby making California law more vulnerable to a Commerce Clause challenge and to the Trump FERC's likely orders that are pending, because he just issued 2 new executive orders on April 8th, that will advantage coal production. He said, keep that beautiful clean coal plants open and encourage coal use throughout the West in markets that contain coal resources. California doesn't have coal in the state right now, in our market. If we move the geographical footprint to those other states, our market will now contain coal plants. And just wait until the Trump FERC gets a hold of that. Moreover, SB 540, unlike prior versions of this kind of proposal, failed to include any analysis of the job impact to California. But studies of prior versions of regionalization found significant California job losses in the tens of thousands. We need to know how many good jobs California will lose to other Western states under pathways before changing California law, which is why several building trades labor unions oppose this bill. As Evie said, this isn't going to happen right away. First, we're going to change our law. Then there's going to be this new corporation formed. Then they're going to file market rules at FERC that don't have to comply with California law. And then the new Trump FERC is going to decide what those market rules are going to be that we have to follow. So changing California law now, when the ISO won't even be able to hand over control of our markets or change the market rules until 2027, will tie the hands of the next governor to protect California ratepayers. That will make our next governor, who will take office in January of 2027, the Gray Davis of the 21st century. So I would urge you to reconsider your support of SB 540. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, what I want to do here is I want to open it up to questions and comments. And then I'm going to ask both of the presenters to provide sort of a 2-minute wrap up based on kind of all the questions and everything they've heard. And we will, by consensus, determine if we want to remand this back to the Ledge Committee for further discussion. But I think that's the path forward, is not to make a technical decision today on a support or not support position, but remand it back to the Ledge Committee, and the Ledge Committee can work on it
If necessary.
if necessary. But I just kind of want to outline that. So questions? And just let me know if you, Tom, please. Please,
So I haven't
or
thought,
Director McHugh.
haven't thought about this one in a while, but going back in time a ways, wasn't it a previous version of changing the electricity market supposedly to make it less expensive and more efficient, that actually unintentionally opened the door to market manipulation by Enron and people like Enron? And I know the advocates say, no, it'll never happen again. But that was a completely unintended consequence of an intended market that was supposed to make things cheaper for, wasn't that what happened in that?
I was there, so I'm happy to talk about that. Well, I wasn't there for the passage of the bill. I came in 1999 for the aftermath. I was Gray Davis's PUC president, and it was a big pile of present that Pete Wilson left us. And yes, indeed, but I don't believe it was unintended. I believe that the legislature was bamboozled then, because there was this mountain of folks who were for this. Hey, cleaner, cheaper, better, market, bigger markets are better. There'll be more supply. And you'll notice that the Brattle study shows that the supply that's going to be available is coal and natural gas. Indeed, there are going to be 25 gigawatts of new supply because it's more fossil. It's right there. I didn't put on the natural gas plants, but absolutely. Ken Lay and Jeff Skilling of Enron walked the legislature in 1996 saying cheaper, cleaner, better, go this way, market's good. Didn't work out that way, which is why I'm not being paid by anybody to do this. This is my pro bono time. Just feel the need to warn people not to be bamboozled again. Because, fool me once, shame on you, but fool us twice.
Okay, Evie, do you have a response to the question?
Yeah, I mean, that was 25 years ago. A lot has changed. We've had a great deal of experience. And I will say that we have had gains from our markets. The CAISO summarizes regularly what the savings has been from the Western Energy Imbalance Market that they formed in 2014. And it's been, I think we're up to about $7 billion for ratepayers. So there have been great gains. We've learned a lot since 2000. It's a different market structure now entirely. We used to have the power exchange, which was run separately with different rules. The utilities used to have to bid all their supply into the market at the market price. So there are so many things that have changed and so much learning that has taken place. And I think one thing that doesn't get discussed enough is the fact that we have so many partners in this process. And I think I've been privileged to work with a lot of them over the last year and a half. We have, from the state of Washington, Oregon, Arizona, New Mexico, we have the commissioners that are involved in it, and indeed commissioners from California who have been involved. And what you learn is that there is so much joint interest in supporting ratepayers, in supporting the public interest, in maintaining state autonomy, that we're entering into this process with some very solid partners. And I think we need to give them more credit than we've been giving them.
Thank you. Next question, comments? Yes, Director Romero.
Oh, Supervisor Spear.
Oh, I'm sorry. Supervisor Spear?
Thank you. And thank you very much to Sean and the board for allowing this debate to take place. And I apologize for not being there. I've got a bad bug. But I'd like to ask Loretta if she could speak to one, the consumer groups that are opposed to this, and two, the fact that we lose all control over transmission.
Thank you, Supervisor Spear, and thank you for your leadership for the last, I won't say how many years. You are a true hero to me. So TURN is opposed unless amended, and they have a laundry list of amendments which would fundamentally change this bill. Consumer Watchdog is opposed, period, as well as the vast majority of indivisible groups around California. So what we know is that the calculations of benefit, one, don't start until 2032, but two, they assume just the production cost of energy. They don't include transmission or all the other costs that actually make up the electric bill. Moreover, the way they assume the production costs is not the way the actual market works, where it's called the single price auction, where the highest price is paid to all. So they didn't model what actually happens in every FERC or electricity market. They modeled what the cost of energy is, projected it out 7 years, didn't include a whole bunch of other costs like transmission, and then came up with a benefit. So I think that there's general agreement that needs to be updated or redone, because of course it also doesn't address the impact of tariffs or all the other things that the FERC, the new Trump FERC is going to do. Because right now, well, not right now, Monday, FERC was a 3-2 Democratic commission. And as you all probably know, the independent agencies in Washington, the majority, Republican or Democrat, changes. For FERC, it wasn't going to change until the middle of 2026. But one of the Democratic commissioners resigned abruptly on Tuesday. And so FERC has been kind of quiet because it hasn't had a Republican majority until the Senate confirms a new one. My bet is pronto pub. So at the least, this should be a 2-year bill because one, Senator Becker has said he's working with a variety of groups and he's going to be offering several substantive amendments. Well, okay, then why don't we wait and see what it says before people take a position on whether or not you want to support it? Because the devil is in the detail. As we all know, anyone who has worked in government knows what the words on the page say matter. And I am so sorry, Senator Spear, I forgot your second question. Or excuse me, Supervisor Spear.
Transmission?
Oh, transmission. So what the big new deal with this bill is the ISO runs the markets and the transmission grid. And all the prior versions took the whole shebang and transferred it over to the regional operator. This version transfers over the markets part, but leaves the ISO running the transmission grid. So the governor will still appoint the 5 members of the ISO running the transmission grid, and the Senate will still confirm, and the CAISO will still be a California corporation, unlike all of this over here in the markets. But the markets actually rule the transmission operator. And it's just real simple to see why. So you've got 10 megawatts of energy that you want to send from Palo Alto to Los Angeles, or somebody wants to send it from Kern to San Francisco. That happens in the markets, right? People make the market deal. And then the transmission operator just has to implement the market deals. It implements the market operator's vision. The ISO as the transmission operator cannot decide that your 10 megawatts from Palo Alto aren't going to LA. They have to deliver them to LA at the price and time that the market already set. So market rules are the whole shebang. And this bill anticipates, although it doesn't say it in the bill, it says it in all the underlying documents, which are called the pathways documents. This bill anticipates transferring the right, called the Section 205 filing rights, to propose what the market rules are to the new corporation. So that means, I liken it to, right now, we're the pilot in the pilot seat of this electricity plane, and we get to file the flight plan and determine where we're going and be the pilot and fly that plane. However, this bill transfers the pilot seat, but also the right to develop the flight plan to the new regional operator. And that new regional operator does not have to follow California law. So we're in the pilot seat, or we're gonna be in the back seat.
Thank you. I'd love everybody to keep it to facts, please.
Does Abby
Abby?
have a response to that?
Response to that? That was a lot.
Or supporters, I don't know if you want to do the reverse. Do you want to do the reverse?
No, I mean, the two questions are, the transmission question and then the endorsement question. Supporters.
Yes. So there are supporters who are consumers. In fact, all the consumer organizations throughout the West participated in the Pathways process. And part of what they earned in that Pathways process was to fund, for the first time, Pathways, the new regional organization will fund a consumer advocate organization. And that is unusual. It's new. The CAISO doesn't have a funded consumer advocate organization. So there will be a direct influence by that consumer advocate organization. And there will also be direct influence by regulators. The body of state regulators, which now advises the CAISO, will also be advising the regional organization. So they're going to have the California commissioners, the Oregon commissioners, Washington commissioners, all sitting in an advisory position with the regional organization, just as they are today. We're also, as I mentioned, going to have the Office of Public Participation, so the public can participate. It has a more robust stakeholder process than the CAISO currently has. So there are a lot of things built in, and that is why the consumer advocates from the various states, including California, have been supporting Pathways. So there may be some other organizations that are opposing it, and I certainly know they are, but the consumer advocates who are at the center of things have been supporting it. With respect to transmission, I'll respectfully disagree. The transmission rules remain in the tariff of the transmission owner. So the CAISO will continue to have the transmission rules for its governed facilities in its tariff, as will Portland General Electric and every other participant in the market. Those resources or those transmission assets are used by the market, but the control over how they're used, when they're used, whether there are any holdbacks, that still remains with the transmission owner. So I guess I disagree on that point as well.
Thank you. I'm gonna ask everyone to try to keep their comments to like a minute so we can get through it all. I'm gonna ask Director Romero, did you have a question?
Yeah, a quick one, and then a couple after that. Presently, gas and coal are supplied into the California market at this point, correct?
Mhm.
Yes, but there are no resources located in California's market.
Correct. Conceivably, would opening up the California market to these western states that have gas and coal production, they also have some wind production, correct? Would it conceivably increase and make actually coal and gas more competitive in California so that it could actually wind up supplanting some of the renewable resources that we have?
And I think that's an excellent question, and I will say just the opposite. By bringing those resources into this market, they are going to have to compete with lower cost resources. And the observation is that those lower cost resources, including California's solar resources, will ultimately drive them out of the market. And, so I think it's false just to think that it's going to increase it. The modeling that Brattle did showed no coal coming into California under any of its scenarios. And I think the other thing is that, Commissioner Lynch talked about the PacifiCorp and the other Buffett organizations that own coal. They are already participating. They are already committed to the CAISO's market in EDAM. And so those resources are already in our market. That isn't anything new. And it's not going to be a consequence of this regional organization. It's a consequence of existing factors.
Yes, go ahead. Do you want to?
Did you want me to respond?
I thought you were gonna.
The Brattle study says that the additional resources, this is their study, not mine, on page 10, will be 5,000 megawatts of coal, 15,000 megawatts of gas, with a little sprinkling of battery storage, which we're already paying for in bulk. And it shows no more solar. But in terms of coal, yeah, in a free market where there wasn't the Trump administration saying we're going to keep those clean, beautiful coal plants open, maybe, but that's not the world we live in today. And what we do know is PacifiCorp, which was going to close 6 of its coal plants on January 26th of this year, announced they're going to keep running.
Just one quick question to you, Ms. Lynch, Commissioner Lynch. What changes would you make to SB 540?
Well,
Get it over the finish line.
as Willie Brown used to say, you don't try to amend a bad bill to make it less bad, you just kill it.
Okay.
Fair enough.
I have Director Lorraine. Do you have a quick question?
Yes, thank you. I guess I just,
Or a comment?
yeah, well, no, I just wanted to ask, I think, particularly maybe, Evelyn, what, whether this bill has made, significant changes and modifications, since the Trump administration began making moves that seem to indicate that there may in fact be, an outsized interest in anti-California, anti-green energy, pro-fossil fuel stuff.
Yeah, I don't think anything in the bill has changed, but I really think we have to be honest here about what's going on. While California does appoint the board of the CAISO, today we are just as vulnerable to any action by Trump as we will be tomorrow. Trump could force coal down the throat of the CAISO, just like it could a new regional organization. There really is no difference.
Okay, yes.
But we can sue them as a state.
Well, the difference is that the CAISO right now can't propose a market rule that conflicts with California laws. But under the bill, in lieu of California law means, oh yes, the new market rules can conflict. So today we're protected because 1, we're in a single state, and 2, that has no current coal plants in it. And 2, the market rules do not conflict with California law. You have a jump ball or worse if you have a new organization proposing new market rules, and they might create a conflict with California law. And there goes, under the Commerce Clause, California's laws.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to take one last question from Rick. Tom, can you do me a favor and just send it to Sean and we can get it answered? Just so I can wrap it up.
My only question is, it sounds to me like both positions are looking at the whole region. And if the whole region were to come in, that is a condition from what Loretta said to obtain the claim benefits that the supporters have identified. And obviously, if the whole region doesn't come in, then there's going to be an impact. So one amendment or provision in the bill could be to require the whole region to come in. And I don't know why.
Good start.
that wasn't done, but if that's a condition of obtaining the benefits, I don't know if it is, but if it is, that seems like it might be important to me.
Yeah, and I think, you know, again, I think there's been a slight overstatement here of what's going on. I don't think that the expanded case assumes everything in the West comes in. There are still some pieces, if you look at the map, that are not in. And I will challenge Commissioner Lynch's characterization of BC Hydro. Today, BC Hydro's power marketing arm does participate in the CAISO's real-time market. Canada does participate today in the CAISO's real-time market. So I don't think there's any indication that tomorrow they're suddenly not going to. If it's in their interest, they will.
Sure.
So I really want to thank everyone for listening through this. If anyone has further questions or comments, I would strongly suggest you send them over to Sean. And we can take a polling of that and kind of a report out. I don't think there's anything action oriented on this. Oh, yes, please. Public comment.
My name's Ted McKinnon. I'm from San Mateo. I'm with the Climate Action Team, but I'm sorry, my name's Ted McKinnon. I'm with the Climate Action Team of San Mateo, although I'm speaking for myself. So good evening to the board. And first of all, thanks to Supervisor Spear for requesting this discussion be put on the PCE agenda. I was dismayed to learn that PCE made the decision to endorse SB 540 without the consent or perhaps even the knowledge of the board. It's undemocratic, and that a publicly accountable entity should make an endorsement on such an important bill prior to any debate, public debate or discussion. Unfortunately, SB 540 takes a similar approach. The California legislature under SB 540 will not have final say over whether the CAISO will join the new regional organization in January 2027. Instead, under the bill, the CAISO will by itself make the decision to give up its authority to make Section 205 tariff filings. Apparently, the goal of this abrogation is to ensure the new RO's independence with the goal of enticing the maximum number of market participants. But one might ask, independent of what? Well, we know what the FERC thinks independence is. This from an unsuccessful federal lawsuit they waged against California in the wake of the Enron debacle. During this time, newly enacted laws made CAISO accountable to the interests of the people of California and subject to governor appointment and Senate confirmation. But FERC claimed this action undermined CAISO's independence. So from the beginning, the notion of an ISO's independence and that of serving the interests of the people were in conflict. But of course, SB 540 is supposed to provide guardrails. And these guardrails are supposed to bind the regional organization to California's consumer environmental laws. So we're supposed to have the benefits of both independence and accountability, even as they appear to be competing interests. And this having it both ways mode of thinking appears to have lulled many well-meaning folks into a state of acquiescence regarding SB 540.
Thank you. We're up at 2 minutes. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
that
you.
it? I'm done? Okay.
Yep.
I wasn't sure how much time I had. It was
2 minutes.
a little
Up on the,
truncated, but otherwise, thanks.
no problem. It's up on the screen. That's
Oh,
our,
sorry.
that's our
I
service.
didn't
Yeah,
see that.
no worries. Any other members of the public on the screen or? Okay, yeah, please.
Jeff Elfs, some of you know me. I just want to thank you for your support of SB 540 to agree with and hope you maintain it. As some of you may remember, I've long felt that regionalization is an important step towards the decarbonized grid of the future. It's not perfect. It does rely on certain things, but I think SB 540 is a useful step in that direction. So I do actually hope that you will continue to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean, do you want to respond to the invitation that was done with that?
Oh, sure. Yes, actually, thank you. I appreciate that. I do think it's worth reminding the board that there was a legislative platform that was adopted both in 2024 and in February of this year that included specifically discussion of regionalization, and the what is now called Western Pathways. So it was not done without authorization, and I also had calls with both the vice chair and the chair when the bill came up, and then we reported it out as per policy. So just so you know, we did follow proper procedure. Thank you.
Protocol. Okay, I am gonna wrap up that item, and I want to thank the public. I want to thank our speakers. Yeah, oh, yes, Nellie, do we have more on?
We did, there were two, now there are two, public comments. on it.
Please, on there.
Just give them a minute to. Put on mine. Eduardo, if you'd like to go first?
Yeah, quickly, just so I'm Eduardo Peregri. I live in Menlo Park, and I want to say that I came to SB 540 as an interested participant, but I didn't have any particular background. I'm a retired software engineer, so I looked at this as a problem. I looked at all the presentations. I looked at the workshops on the CEC. I heard all the presentation in there, the informational hearing in the Senate, and I came to believe that it was the right thing to do. So I support the current position that PC has on this. It's my take is the current situation will not stay. We have to move forward. This is the best way forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Second?
Robert Whitehair? Oh, Robert, I'm so sorry, you're on mute.
Yes, I am. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you tonight for bringing this item to the full board. And I want to compliment Senator Becker for writing a bill that, while it may be intended, and may be well written in some respects, it's not the bill that we need right now. There's obviously an issue out there that Senator Becker wrote this bill for. I don't think this is the bill that we need right now. I would support killing it and coming back with a better and different bill. The comment was made that a lot has changed in the last few years since Enron. Yes, a lot has changed in the way that the ISO addresses issues, the way the state addresses issues, the way the bureaucracy in Sacramento is much better equipped now than it was back in the days when Enron was here. However, I would point out that also at the same time, the consultants, the lobbyists, the rest of the folks that are going to be pushing for taking this bill to their personal advantage have also changed. They've gotten smarter. What I'm really concerned about is that some really smart lobbyists, some really smart consultants will take this bill and to our disadvantage. I would like to see it be completely rewritten and all the issues that have been thought through tonight that came up are addressed. I thank you for the opportunity to let me speak, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Okay, thank you. All right, any more members of the public? Sounds like, no, okay. Any more comments from board?
So,
Yes.
Donna, to chair, if we wanted to reconsider this, saying we're not doing that today, obviously, but if you wanted to reconsider this, could you explain to me what the path would be to do so?
We would remand it back to the legislative committee and the staff to continue to work with the group, our group and our professional advisors, Senator Becker's office, and we would work on, following and potentially coming back with a continue or a changed opinion.
But it would be a majority of this body that would have to remand that, is that correct? I mean, I couldn't just say, hey, Donna, let's go to lunch.
Yeah, no,
We have to go to lunch.
No. Yes, it would have to be agendized for a motion. And so I guess the first step would be if somebody wanted to put it back on the agenda for next time.
Thank you.
Can I ask for clarification though? Just, we get a little lost in process sometimes. So the question that I have pursuant to Director Romero, if there was a majority of the board tonight that wanted to remand it back, there's no action that's taken on the bill, right? But could they just then, as a majority, remand it back, or does it have to be agendized in order to remand it back?
So there would be no opportunity for a vote tonight.
Okay.
Certainly a board member could make a request and the request could be entertained, just as we do for any agenda item, but no vote will occur tonight on any
Correct.
item.
Okay.
So
Yes, Director Spear.
thank you. Then if that's the case, I would like to make a motion to remand it back to the Legislative Committee for further study and possible requests for amendments to the legislation.
Yeah, so there's no vote tonight because it's not agendized for a vote. So what you would be asking for is as a member of the board, for this to go back to the Legislative Committee for consideration. Well, no, actually, you'd be asking for it to be on the May agenda as an agenda item to discuss if we want to send it, remand it back, or some other action.
This is purely informational. That's
Right.
correct.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Be my,
So it just stands as is. So essentially, it would just stand as is. We would bring it back in May, have a discussion, and then based on direction from the board, we would take a position. And we can get.
Or no, take it back to Ledge.
Take it, that's what I'm saying, take it back to Ledge. Ledge would then bring it back probably in June for June or July. Yes,
Just a question to add to that discussion, if and when we have it, how does that work with already voted upon legislative priorities? Does it affect those? Are you voting on those too? Or are you voting to have an exception to
question.
those?
That's a good
Jen,
question.
That's a Jen. Not to be answered now, but just as part of our consideration. if that-
right. In other words, if we are going to take a policy position that stands against the policy that we all agreed to, then do we need to amend our policy as well? I think that's consideration, yeah. All right, so yes,
When is SB 540 going to be voted on by the state government?
Mark?
So SB 540 was before the Senate Energy Utilities and Communications Committee earlier this week. It passed 17-0, so it had bipartisan support. It's now going to the Judiciary Committee. I believe it's being heard on the 29th or 30th of next week. And if it passes there, I suspect that there's a monetary fiscal component. It would go to the Appropriations Committee. And assuming it gets out of the Appropriations Committee, it will go to the floor sometime probably in late May, early June. If it passes the Senate, it would head to the Assembly for consideration in July.
And Mark, it doesn't get fully sent to the governor until probably August, right?
Session this year runs till the middle of September, so potentially there could be discussions if it gets out of both houses. But at this point, it's passed its first committee, so there's a ways to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. You wanna do that?
Mhm.
You want me to say that?
It just saves a month.
Okay, so we think we
That's more
can whittle
efficient.
down a month, according to our attorney here. By just consensus, if people would like to remand this back. And then it could come back in May, if that is
Or June.
May or June, if that's the consensus of the room. So it's not a vote, it's just sort of a, you know, so.
So we're taking a vote.
Take
No,
it back
no
to the
vote,
committee or
there's
not?
no vote, it's like, we can't take an official vote, a motion and a vote and whatever, because there's really nothing to vote on right now. There's it was a discussion. Based on the discussion, if the board of directors would like to direct or provide guidance to the staff to relook at this and bring it back again in May or June for additional consideration, we could do that.
To the legislative committee.
We remand it to the legislative
That's right.
committee. The legislative committee can look at it and put together with the staff a memo to bring this back.
And the reason it could be June is that we have a heck of a time scheduling but I believe Mark is already working on a legislative committee meeting to brief on other items. So if you want this added to that, it can be.
Yes.
Okay, I feel like if we don't do it in May, then it's gonna be, and then we've lost our chance essentially. I feel like we're
Well, and I kind of also do want to remind everyone, if people in this room feel strongly one way or another, you have every right to write your own letter on, you know, your own letterhead as a council person or as an individual citizen. This is, you know, about the organization, right? And the process that we use in the organization is we've set up a standard rubric of what we want to like support and not support in general. We've remanded that to the staff because there is so much legislation that we've created a basic framework from which to act, that we've approved as a board, and the approval as a board included approving the Western Regional and the regionalization of this. So this was approved as a board in the policy framework. We then asked staff working with Ledge Committee to, you know, you could see how many bills there are up there and how many things. We just couldn't possibly bring them all back and debate. So this is the process by which we set up. Individual, so this is why Leslie or Director Ragsdale brings the point up that if we take a position that's counter to the framework we've established, then we need to reestablish the framework too. Generally, this has worked. This has really worked well for 10 years. This is really the first time we've had a situation kind of come up that it's gotten a little hiccup. So I would just note that, again, anyone feels particularly one way or another can absolutely write their own letter. And then we would have to go back to the Ledge Committee, discuss the framework, and then revise the framework, and then that would result in a letter. So what I would need tonight from everyone is just direction.
So, wouldn't we have the, I mean, if there are changes to this bill, don't we have another opportunity to decide as an organization whether we're going to support it? I mean, because I think what I'm hearing is, I mean, even Becker's talking about making potentially substantial changes. Right. So it feels to me like right now we're supporting the concept of regionalization, and it may be a flawed bill. I'm hearing that, and it sounds like even Becker thinks there's some flaws in it. It feels to me like supporting regionalization sounds right, and if as the bill progresses, it either takes a turn to the good or a turn to the bad, then I think we could decide whether to continue to support or withdraw it. That would make the most sense to me.
We could certainly remand to the legislative committee and our legislative staff to monitor the bill, watch the bill, and if there are any changes to the bill that make it either more attractive or less attractive, provide a report out. And most certainly, staff could withdraw a letter of support or add a letter of support to any bill along the way based on, you know, you hear all the time, support unless amended. So I would be, I think Director Taylor offers sort of a pathway forward here, which is, you know, like have the staff and the staff work with Becker's office, keep apprised. We've heard two very interesting, you know, sides of the story. Thank you very much, Director Spear and Commissioner, and to Ellie for, you know, bringing everybody together. And we could remand it back, and then they can take a look, and if they feel like it needs to come back for further discussion in May or June.
Pending bill amendments.
Pending bill amendments, you know, or update on bill amendments, you know, we could handle it that way.
Yeah, I'd be in support of that.
Yes, Director Lorraine.
Thank you, Chair. I think I would also support what you just suggested.
Thank you very much. Is everyone okay with that? I like that approach. Director Spear, are you okay with that?
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. All right, I think then we've got a good process forward on this.
Yep.
And I really do want to, where's our member of the public who can speak or speak for sure? She's sorry. Oh, sorry, I took an awkward situation. I want to thank you for coming in person, especially. I know it's a long ways. And we appreciate it. Thank
Sure,
you.
appreciate it. This is just that important.
Thank you.
Very much for having me.
And Ellie, thank you. All right,
Evelyn,
Ivy, I've
we
got
are
too
gonna
many
be
people.
running
We're
a
gonna be,
little late.
I know, we
That's
are gonna be
okay.
running a little late,
So
but that
hopefully
was
people can
very
stay.
important. And
Great.
not
Very
only
important.
was that important, it was important to understand as these markets and these laws are getting more and more complicated. And when you have a federal government that's sort of at odds to your local government, we're gonna probably see more of these. So having sort of a process by which to iterate these things and understand fluctuations and changing executive orders and whatever else is going on, I think is really gonna be important.
That's
So,
absolutely.
thank you.
Okay, great.
All right, let's go to the next item, which is item number 7. I believe there's a handout. An augmented item number 7. This was attached on the agenda that was posted and everything. It somehow just, the item didn't, it's been posted, it's been noticed, it just didn't get into the.
Email version of the packet. Directors,
Turn it over to Shelby Bush, and is it you, Raphael?
I'm going to do the introduction.
Okay, great, Raphael.
Thank you, directors, Rafael Reyes, Director of Energy Programs. I'm very pleased here to introduce this item. It is a request to approve a resubmittal of or renewal of a program called Flex Market. We don't talk about Flex Market much, but it was a program that we essentially piloted for the last 3 years for energy efficiency, primarily targeted at the commercial sector. It's a particularly innovative program. We're among the first agencies in the state to operate this program. And one of its features is that we don't use our own money for it, so that's always nice. And I'm very pleased as part of that to introduce here one of our newest team members, Shelby Bush, who comes with spectacular background in energy efficiency and in particular running this kind of energy efficiency program. And Shelby is not only an expert in energy efficiency, but an avid soccer player. And she's up here from San Diego, so Shelby will walk you through the details. Thank you, Shelby.
Thank you, everyone. I have a clicker. Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to speak tonight. I am going to be talking about another market. We just finished a long conversation about markets. This one should be pretty straightforward and I'm gonna get through it pretty quick. So today we're requesting to approve this program plan for the California Public Utilities Commission funded Flex Market program. Just a quick overview of what this program is. It's a multi-technology load shaping program. It is a pay for performance-based program utilizing the meter data that we get at our energy meter. It must meet CPUC cost effectiveness metrics. So we are constrained in certain aspects of the program design. All program expenses are reimbursed by the CPUC. That is very important. I want to emphasize that. And other CCAs have run similar programs. MCE has run a similar program, SCP, for example, and the IOUs have gotten on board in recent years as well. Our objectives for this program, currently, we don't have a lot of opportunity for our commercial customers. This program is a commercial customer offering for programs. We want to align load with grid needs. So that is, increasing, decreasing, or smoothing out demand to better match supply or system needs. And this second round is to improve upon our implementation and utilize those learnings that we piloted in round 1 to move forward into a better program. I want to mention that this is part of a greater strategy. Earlier in the CEO report, we mentioned revenue diversification. So this is a program under that initiative, getting outside funds to run some of our programs. It is also step 1 in our energy efficiency portfolio. We have greater plans to go to the California Public Utilities Commission next year to expand our program offerings and offer a suite of programs. So this is step one, showing the CPUC. We know how to run CPUC funded programs, and we get ourselves familiarized with the regulatory compliance and things that come with that. I'm going to talk about the marketplace architecture really quickly, so that you have a visualization of how this program works. So we PCE, we create a price register. That is, we put an hourly price on every single hour of the year that can be applied to behind the meter resources and load reductions. We send out, there you go. We send out that price register to energy services firms like the ones up here on the screen, and they go to market. This great thing about this Flex Market program is that it is business model agnostic. So we do not mandate how our energy services firms, typically in this program design, the energy services firms are called aggregators. So if I say aggregators, that's what I'm referring to. We do not mandate how they go to market, the incentives that are given to customers. This is a free market. We just say, you give us energy savings, we pay you for those energy savings, depending on the time of day that you have. So they go to our customers. And from those customers, we get the AMI data. This is the meter data. We leverage our data relationship with Calpine. And we get the meter data from Calpine, and Calpine has partnered with a firm called Recurve, who does the M&V, the analysis of that meter data, and determines when those savings have occurred and apply that price register to those savings and then pay aggregators for those load reductions. First round, we had some successes. We also had some lessons learned. We had 11 commercial customers served, and that equated to about 1.24 million kWh saved. This is the forecasted number. However, our actual measured savings are exceeding those forecasts by 30%. This is unheard of almost in energy efficiency programs. Most of the time you forecast your energy efficiency savings and you're either coming in at those savings or maybe oftentimes a little less than those forecasts. So 30% over our forecast is great. We've also seen a 10% summer peak reduction at the sites that have participated in this program. We have also learned some lessons over the last couple of years. We've learned about how we can balance that price signal and our price register with the cost effectiveness calculations and requirements from the CPUC. So we're taking that into the new program to make it more cost effective. We also we're refining some of our implementation partner scope of work and what our implementation team is doing. There may be some future contracts. If there are any future contracts regarding this ETA, we'll bring it to board if necessary. And we learned a lot about CPUC reporting, and we're going to continue to do that. We're actually bringing on a firm to help with reporting for round 2. So if that contract requires board approval, we'll bring that to you. So again, a little bit of the CPUC funding background. Again, we want to emphasize that Flex Market is fully funded by the California Public Utilities Commission. The board initially approved the PCE Flex Market back in November of 2021, and we have operated and implemented this program since 2022. Our current funding cycle ends May 2025. And so we are now seeking an additional $2.9 million from the CPUC to fund the Flex Market from the years 2025 to 2028. I mentioned a little bit earlier about our future plans to expand our energy efficiency offerings through the CPUC funding. This program will roll into that future funding that would start in 2028. So when we start those programs in 2028, this would just roll into that. And the reason why we're here today is that the CPUC requires CCA board approval of our program plan.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, just here's a timeline, but
Maybe
you can
30 more
reference it.
seconds.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can reference the timeline. It's not a big deal.
Okay.
Okay, I will go ahead and open up to questions. Any comments or questions? Yes, please, Director Taylor.
So when you say we get, I'll say reimbursed, does that include administrative costs as well, or is it just money that you pay to the aggregator, or whatever you call it, that group of people?
That's a great question. In the future, we hope to cover a large chunk of our administration costs utilizing this funding.
And do you know roughly how much it costs us to administer?
It costs about like 10% of that 2.9 million.
Thank you.
Okay, good questions. Members of the public, any questions? Anyone, Nellie? All right, I'll go ahead and close public comment. This is an action item. Was there anyone who would like to make a motion?
So moved.
Thank you very much. Director Taylor has a motion on the table. Can I have a second?
Second.
Oh, who do we have down here?
Go ahead.
I can't, yeah,
That's on bridge.
okay. We have a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yeah, San Mateo County,
Yes.
San Mateo County,
Yes.
Atherton,
Yes.
Belmont,
Yes.
Brisbane,
Yes.
Burlingame,
Yes.
Colma,
Yes.
Daly City,
Yes.
East Palo Alto,
Yes.
Foster City,
Yes.
Half Bay.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, they're
great,
gonna-
thank you.
Can you do it?
Hillsborough.
Yes.
Los Banos,
Yes.
Menlo Park,
Yes.
Millbrae, Pacifica,
Yes.
Portola Valley,
Aye.
Urban City,
Yes.
San Bruno,
Yes.
San Carlos, San Mateo,
Yes.
South San Francisco, Woodside.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
All right, next item on the agenda is item number 8, discussion of the distributed energy resources framework. This is a discussion item presented by Rafael Reyes, our Director of Energy Programs. Yana, if I can get your name right, Kopovic Lunde, did I get that close enough? Associate Director of Innovation Strategy, and Peter Levitt, Senior Program Manager of Distributed Energy Resources. We're gonna
Thank
try to
you.
get through in 20 minutes.
Yes, directors, I'm going to fly through the introduction here in the interest of time. So our intention here is to provide background or an update on the finalized distributed energy resources framework that has been developed by the team. And I'm going to provide the program's overview leading into it. Quickly, in terms of our overall strategy, as all of you are likely aware, one of the key things we do is to support individual customers in advancing their choices on clean energy. We also help drive innovations through a number of strategies, including best methods or leading edge methods and technologies and the like, as well as help shape policy. And that includes both local policy, providing technical assistance to local governments on things like REACH codes, as well as state policy and the opportunities to inform that through the innovations that we develop here locally. And ultimately, our objective is to drive these methods and best practices across the state and really business models to help with scalability of clean energy solutions, ultimately to get market forces working in our favor. Back in 2022, at the direction of the board, we developed an extensive decarbonization strategy. That strategy included identifying specific targets within our service territory or market segments, if you will, of where we would focus our decarbonization. That focus is primarily in transportation and buildings, in transportation and private passenger vehicles being the primary target there, and in buildings primarily single-family residential, but also a couple other segments with fleets and office. This comprises approximately 2/3 of the emissions pie in our service territory. I'm not going to go through all of our programs, but I do want to call out that we have to date had a total in a set of investments of approximately $16 million since inception. That includes both incentives and our capital programs, which are finance programs. And we have had some significant successes in terms of starting to shape the direction the state is taking, and that includes through our REACH codes, which have substantially informed the state codes. as well as cost effectiveness, such as our extremely good numbers on EV charging, which are typically about 80% less than other typical programs on a per port basis, and a number of additional innovations. I want to call out just briefly that we, of course, working on solar and storage, EVs and buildings, without spending a lot of time here. The blue line represents different adopters and the adoption cycle for market transformation. And I just want to call out here that each of these technology solutions are in a different stage of adoption. As a consequence, our posture with regards to those technologies is somewhat different for each of them. So solar is much more mature, and I mean solar and storage, we support that, but we don't apply incentives because there is enough economic value that's created through them that we don't feel that incentives are necessary. Vehicles, and that includes e-bikes and EVs, we're primarily focused on equity opportunities. But buildings and EV charging are where we see the most direct support is still required. We have 5 major programs with specific objectives, and then a set of smaller programs. And currently, for example, you just heard about Flex Market. It really constitutes one of our smaller current programs, although we are looking to grow that. So reach codes, residential electrification, EV charging, these are our core decarbonization programs. Residential electrification and EV charging have substantial equity objectives, and each of these icons represents one of these objectives, and the legend is on the right. Whereas our solar and storage programs are primarily focused on affordability, resilience, and grid services. Now, we face some major strategic challenges in terms of the affordability issues that we see, new rules coming through the air district with regards to gas appliances, access to capital for the scale that we need, and of course, power outages on a periodic basis. So the reason the Distributed Energy Resources Framework is so important is it's really a core part of how we address these major challenges. Now, part 1 of this was actually presented to the Executive Committee back in 2023, and I'm pleased to turn this over to Jana to speak to the detail here on the plan.
Thank you, Rafael, and good evening, everybody. So we've all been working, there you go. We've all been working on a PCE strategic plan that I know all of you have been involved in. So we're looking at where PCE should move over the next 5 years. And as part of that PCE strategic plan, we've identified new and modified lines of business. We've discussed them in depth over the last 6 months, and many community stakeholders and the board and staff have all agreed that distributed energy resources, or DERs, are something that we want to continue focusing on more and more in the next 5 years. This is the strategic policy that we've adopted, which basically just says we need to accelerate the development of carbon-free distributed energy resources. And we've discussed some high-level activities, how that could happen during the strategic planning discussions. And then staff was directed to develop a more detailed plan of how that could really happen. And that's what we're presenting to you today at a high level. Before we get into our new goals, and we've established 7 specific goals of how we want to accelerate DER deployment over the next 5 years, before we go to the goals, we wanted to just level set quickly on what DERs are, because there are a lot of different definitions out there. And one important point that we wanted to make is that PCE defines distributed energy resources as both resources that are located behind the customer's meter, so on the customer side of the meter, as well as resources that are located in front of the customer's meter and connected to the distribution grid. Without spending too much time on this, we have large transmission grids that bring electricity from faraway lands like the San Joaquin Valley into the local load centers, and then at a substation that is transferred into the distribution grid. And anything connected to the distribution grid directly is considered by PCE a DER. And we, in the future, will focus more on these so-called distribution connected DERs as an important part of our strategy. In the past, we focused mostly on customer-sided resources. So that's like the solar plus storage, that's the heat pump water heaters, say electric vehicles. And we want to continue working on those as a very important part of our DER strategy. But we also want to look into things like community solar, community microgrids. And that is it's a hard nut to crack, but we want to continue focusing on that more. And I'm going to pass it on to Peter Levitt to talk quickly about DER benefits and barriers.
Good evening, Honorable Board of Directors. So we're going to talk a little bit about the why behind our DER plan. So you can see here that there are a variety of benefits that are derived when we deploy DERs. There are customer side benefits, benefits directly to PCE, and benefits to the distribution and transmission grid. When we site DERs behind the customer meter, it can allow them to lower their electricity costs directly. And in a lot of ways, when you pair DERs with electrification, it improves the whole value proposition of electrifying. And furthermore, when customers are electrifying, sometimes they can get a little concerned about, is my power going to remain on now that I have an all electric home? Well, DERs can come in and kind of complement that proposition by offering backup power or energy resilience. To PCE, we have bold renewable energy and GHG goals, and deploying DERs directly complements those by reducing our customers' GHGs. It also complements what we're doing on the power resources side with serving our customers' load and deriving energy and resource adequacy costs. DERs can help to reduce those costs. DERs also help us have a through line directly to our customers. We're going to talk about that in one moment. And lastly, there are a variety of grid and societal benefits that come with deploying DERs. So not all of this is a silver lining, though. There are serious barriers to scaling DER deployments. One of the biggest ones is that we're asking our customers to do something. We're asking them to take on a new thing in life. We're asking them to adopt a new measure. And that can be a challenge if the technology is not far along the maturity curve, as Raphael showed you on the graphs earlier. In addition, DERs just come with a cost. And so financing is a really key piece of the puzzle to help unlocking scale of DER deployment. Further, DERs presently are not afforded all of the values that they can serve to society. Not all of the values are currently unlocked, and so that's an important thing to keep working on. There's a lot of complexity in some of these technologies, especially for those that are in an earlier stage of their maturity cycle. And then lastly, there are permitting and interconnection issues along the way as well. But we want to bring all this together and show you some of the goals that we've put together for the 2025 to 2030 DER plan. Now, I'm not going to speak to all of these right now. There's a lot of text on the slide, but we will go into each of these goals in a little bit more detail. Suffice it to say that this is a highly cross-departmental plan. These goals touch predominantly innovation strategy, energy programs, power resources, but they all pull in a lot of other parts of PCE, like our policy team that help us to unlock things such as value stacking so that DERs can proliferate better. We're going to touch on some of the goals in detail, and we welcome comments to all of them. So one of the biggest goals that we're setting is to grow PCE's behind the meter local power portfolio by 15 megawatts of solar and 35 megawatt hours of battery storage capacity, especially by leveraging scalable and self-sustaining finance solutions. That last bit is the part that I really want to key in on. We're working on deploying local projects that PCE can influence, but in particular, we're trying to do so by leveraging PCE's strong balance sheet and strong credit to support financing. So local power projects include our GovPV program and the residential solar and storage program that we're looking to stand up amongst others, but predominantly GovPV, which many of you are familiar with, and Resi Solar and Storage. In addition to our local power portfolio goal, overall, we're trying to merge the way that we offer programs to our customers. We're trying to eliminate any sort of siloing that's going on and add DERs to a suite of program offerings that are going to our customers. So a customer might be looking to adopt a building electrification measure, and at the same time, in that customer journey, we can loop them into, you know, having, generating some interest in adding solar and storage as well as an EV charger. So this is all part of our efforts to derive a very customer-centric approach. I'm gonna pass it back over to Yana to keep the goals conversation going.
Thank you. One of the core strategies over the next 5 years is going to be to develop a virtual power plant. It's a word that many of you have probably heard. It's been a sort of a buzzword over the last few years. The point of a virtual power plant is that it uses a distributed energy resource management system, or DERMS platform, to control devices at a customer site. So these are behind the meter devices that can be aggregated and used to the benefit of the customer, the LSE, and the grid. We will actually bring a proposed DERMS contract with a DERMS vendor to you in May, so I'm not going to talk about it much more here, but rest assured that we'll talk about it in the May board meeting. We're also, what I already touched upon, we're going to explore business models to foster the development of front of the meter distribution resources. So VPP strategy is really focused on customer-sided resources. This goal is focused on the distribution connected resources, community solar plus storage, community scale multi-customer microgrids that can help with community scale resilience. There's several opportunities we're looking into right now. These projects generally are quite expensive and hard to implement. So we're looking at policy advocacy, we're looking at funding opportunities, and we're looking at basically issue spotting. And it's going to be an interesting world to act in. The next one, to just kind of make it brief, because I know we're running out of time, there's 3 additional goals. We are already working on asset ownership for behind the meter resources in our GovPV program. We are considering that we could do something like that for electric vehicles and for building electrification equipment as well. So we're going to just investigate what behind the meter ownership models there are. We are also going to grow our technical assistance service programs. They've proven to be very, very successful and very appreciated by customers. We have our concierge services for residential customers, where any customer can call and get real technical support if they want to do a home upgrade and don't know where to start. We're also considering building out our consulting services for commercial customers that could be fee-based or not fee-based, maybe depending on the type of commercial customer. And then finally, as we already mentioned, there are several barriers to the development of DER. So we're going to engage in policy advocacy, mostly led by our regulatory team, to maximize the DER value and value stacking, and then reduce some of the hurdles that there are, like interconnection timelines and energization timelines. So that gives you a quick overview. We're going to continue to report out. We're going to continue to develop our plan under the PCE strategic plan. And report back on next steps, and then always provide updates in our annual planning process as well.
Thank you. All right. Yes, I have one additional comment from CEO Marshall.
Great, thank you so much, Yana and Peter. As Yana mentioned, there's a major contract coming your way in May that essentially is a software as a service DERMS platform that wraps around all of these different activities that we're going to be rolling out in the service of DERs and virtual power plants and advanced energy over the next 5 years. So what's coming before you, you'll see it next month. It went out to RFP, we'll explain all of that, but this is just a kind of a preview for why we are now advancing a DERMS platform to support all of that. Just want to give it a little context there.
Okay, questions?
Yes, I just
Director
have a
Bashir.
question. How will you measure success over this time? Are you
Yeah.
looking at that right now?
Yeah, good question. So we are going to, based on those goals, we're going to establish OKRs, objectives and key results in our annual planning process. So in our annual planning process for 2026, we're going to, for every goal, establish those OKRs and then measure against those OKRs.
Thank you. How will we expand access of these DERs to low income and small business communities?
Yeah, really good question. We are working already on public funding opportunities. Most of our public funding opportunities that we go after are focused on low income customers, like our SCHIP program that Sean reported out on and Shalini earlier. It's a tough nut to crack. Most low income customers do need financial incentives, not just financing. And so at this point, public funding is very a core.
Thank you.
Core way there.
Yes, Director Mackin.
Thank you for the presentation. With all of the accelerated DER development, nothing happens without interconnection. What are we doing to address that? Are we lobbying? That needs to change, and without that changing, we're stalled.
100% agreed. It is on that second to last bullet. It is policy advocacy. There is an energization proceeding that we're closely following, and we need to, continue that advocacy. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any others, members of the public?
I just wanted
Oh,
to
please.
briefly tack on to the Yana's response there. An interesting thing about DERs in particular, Director Mackin, is that unlike front of meter projects, some DER projects may circumvent a really robust interconnection process by focusing on serving on-site customer load as opposed to sending energy to the grid. And so in a lot of those circumstances, you can have a tighter interconnection timeline. Unfortunately, it's still quite opaque, even if you're aiming to do that. But technically speaking, that is an advantage to distributed energy over a wholesale energy project from a timeline perspective.
Okay, yes, in the back, do we have a?
Hi, I'm Sarah Delisle with Calabrama Strategies. I live in Belmont and am a PCE customer. Before starting Calabrama Strategies, I was working at a company called Swell Energy for the past 5 years as their VP of Government Affairs. And Swell was developing virtual power plants, stacking grid services with major IOUs across the country. One of the key lessons learned in developing over a dozen virtual power plants was that there's a lot of DERs deployed in homes already. Going back to those customers and seeking enrollment into a virtual power plant is quite difficult to achieve and very expensive as far as customer outreach and engagement is concerned. So one of the tactics we were taking was really pursuing enrollment in a VPP at the time of purchase of a DER. And so I would, my question is that part of the thinking as this is developed? And then in addition to that, the VPP space is quite crowded. And so there are a lot of individual providers. The state has enrollment programs through the DEBA program, Distributed Energy Backup Asset Program, as well as the Demand Side Grid Support Program that customers can enroll through any aggregator to participate in. So how is it differentiated within the already crowded market, which doesn't have a clearinghouse to alert customers of the various opportunities and different incentive structures to go along with it?
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, really good question. You should definitely attend next May's board meeting. We're going to talk about that more, but to answer the first question, we have several strategies under our VPP DERMS platform. And the first one that we're implementing is integrating our existing programs under the DERMS platform. So that means these are programs where we're actually installing the devices. And then just like you said, upon install, immediately enroll them in the platform. So that's happening for our solar plus storage programs, for our heat pump water heater programs, et cetera, for our EV programs potentially. So yes, absolutely agreed. Also, I want to add, I think as a CCA, we have a little bit an easier time to reach back out to customers and get them integrated with existing devices because we have the customer connections. But you're right, I think that's the harder one. And then your second question was related to
how you differentiate your program.
Yeah, with DSGS and DEBA. So there are a lot of opportunities out there. Luckily, DSGS is something that a CCA can actually take advantage of, so we can be a DSGS provider. So just for everybody to know, these are public programs that exist that are run by the California Energy Commission. And we are we're making an assessment what public programs are out there. That's my job. And then making sure we can participate in them. For example, DSGS, we can be a provider and participant. DBER has some funding challenges. So we're definitely looking at all of that and creating an integrated plan. Please attend in May.
Great. Any additional questions behind me? And if no more board members' questions, then we'll move on and we'll have a very robust discussion about this next time. I want to thank our staff. I hope everybody realizes when they hear our staff talk and present these items, how incredibly amazing they all are and how much we appreciate and rely on you. So our last item for today, or almost last, is approval of budget billing program for PCE customers action. Justin Pine.
All right, good evening. My name is Justin Pine. I'm a senior manager on the account services team. I'm here today to talk about a budget billing program, keeping it quick. So I'm asking you tonight to approve the implementation of the proposed budget billing program for Peninsula Clean Energy charges. So budget billing has actually been a program offered by PG&E for PG&E charges since the 1980s, actually. The program helps customers manage monthly energy costs, and I should clarify, residential and small commercial customers manage monthly energy costs and avoid seasonal spikes caused by weather and seasonal rates. It does this by basically calculating customer payments based on an average and their average energy cost over the last 12 months. So that graph on the right there shows you the blue bars would represent what a customer would pay if they were not on a budget billing program. And that orange, red line, whatever it is for you, that line across shows what they would pay on the budget as a budget billing payment. So basically, in months where a customer might have higher energy usage, they might be paying less than what they would otherwise owe. And then on the shoulder months that are more mild in temperature, they might be paying more than what they would otherwise owe. I think a really important part here is that budget billing programs are not savings programs. They're not discount programs, rather they help customers manage their monthly payments. And I should, so if a customer closes their account, they are still liable for the charges owed. So if they close when they are in a part of their program where they owe money for the last 12 months, they would be charged on their final bill. The same thing if they were, in let's say the spring, and they actually were paying more than they owed, they would get a credit on their final bill. So today we have about 7,700 customers enrolled in PG&E's budget billing program. The reason we're here tonight is because these customers who are enrolled in PG&E's program do not receive that benefit of budget billing for their PCE charges. So those PCE charges continue to be variable throughout the year, while their PG&E charges, that be delivery or gas charges, are balanced or levelized in this budget billing program. You might ask, why are we just coming to you tonight? So until this year, the methodology of the program we could get into details if you want to, but basically the methodology was so that it prohibited CCAs from being able to stand up and offer a program that matched the intent and the desire of the customer of why they are enrolling in the program. Changes this year changed the program methodology to calculate a customer's balance payment, budget, that used to be called balance payment program, their budget billing payment based on a rolling 12-month average, which is easier for us to stay consistent with that billing methodology and offer that same service to their bill. So one other thing, in terms of the timeliness of us coming before you, PG&E has also begun a marketing campaign to basically double enrollment in their program or for their customers this year by the end of 2025. I just want to drill in one last time. So what you're approving tonight is to basically provide a PCE program that mirrors PG&E's budget billing program by balancing or levelizing PCE charges on bill.
Can I just ask you a question on this slide?
Sure, yeah.
So the second bullet, will this BBP program be financing the PCE charges? Because that second bullet says, receive BBP benefit on PG&E electric distribution, which isn't us.
Yes, so currently, thank you for clarifying, currently only PCE customers are only receiving the benefit for their PG&E electric distribution charges and their PG&E gas charges. So approval tonight
They're
would.
getting that from PG&E.
From PG&E, yes. So they're just getting, you know, the 60% of their bill or whatever it is being,
2/3 of their bill.
yeah, is being
It
balanced.
includes gas, it's more than 2/3.
Correct, yeah.
It's 2/3.
There's a
The
mismatch.
distribution is 2/3 of the electric bill and then there's gas, so, but PG&E's financing that.
Correct,
For those portions, which we have nothing to do with.
correct,
And our program will be to finance the electric generation charges that we're
correct,
charging them.
exactly.
Okay, right.
It's better for the customer because it matches. It's
Yeah.
not a misalignment and we don't then have the risk of opt-outs
Right.
because we don't offer it. Let's just be blunt about that.
Yeah.
Can you go quickly through these?
Yep, I'm just gonna, so these are two charts showing the benefit of the program. I think it's pretty straightforward, but basically, I'm gonna focus on the right-hand chart. It's a we looked at Los Banos as an example, only because they have a very different climate zone and have bigger variability in their bill. So it's a great example of how this program benefits customers. In the summer, they might pay $140 for their summer bills, but the rest of the year, they're only paying $60. This program would allow them to pay a levelized price or cost across the year that I think was around, let's say, $60. So in those peak summer months, they're saving that $60 and pay it, you know, throughout the year, different ways. In terms of the fiscal impact, it's very nominal. So there is a cash flow risk, which basically from the deferral of charges on customer bills during those peak months. So we looked at current enrollment levels and also 2 times the enrollment level, which would be what PG&E is aiming for their program enrollment. At 2x the enrollment of what it is today, the largest risk is basically the deferral of about $75,000 in monthly revenues in 1 month. That is a less than 0.2% of anticipated monthly revenues. And so a couple of things on next steps. If approved, we would then give the go-ahead to our back office provider, our billing provider, Calpine Energy Solutions, to begin development of this program. They expect they could finish it by the fall of this year, in which case we could be enrolling all existing customers in that program on PG&E side, defaulting them into our budget billing program, which would be by the end of this year. In terms of how customers will engage with the program, we'll of course have information for them on our website. It could be a great resource for customers who call in and do struggle with those, you know, end of winter bills when they are seeing those high electric bills. But ultimately they will manage enrollment with PG&E, just like they change a rate schedule with PG&E, they would change their budget billing enrollment with PG&E. And with that, the request is on the board. I'm happy to take any questions.
All right, any questions? Yes, we'll start with Director Taylor.
So when you say you opted in, so this is people who were already doing PG&E, you just opt them in?
Yeah, we would default them into it, so they enroll with, they've enrolled in PG&E's program, and, you know, when they enroll, they're trying to balance their payment, and we figure they would want to be, you know, full bill balanced.
And could somebody split if they wanted, or is it just gonna be, if you're in budget balance, you're in, or bill balance, you're in bill balance?
Correct, we will have them enroll with PG&E and keep it consistent between the two. We won't have our own, you know, enrollment process for them.
And then the second part, just so I understand, really the only cost to us is sort of the financing.
Yeah, it's
So
deferred.
just financing over that period.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Director Bowles? No.
Yeah, I think you said that the calculation was done on a rolling basis as opposed to just looking at a year prior, is that right? My only concern is if a person, like something changes, right? Some family members move in, an older person who needs a lot of heat. Could they be racking up a lot of debt that then is a surprise if it's not coming, you know, 6 months later because we've based it on the prior year?
Yeah, so the rolling basis meaning that every year or every bill period, they're looking at the last 12 months of charges, what their charges would be, and calculating that average for that bill period. So it is catching up pretty quickly. By 6 months in, you've caught up, 6 months of that usage and those charges. So we don't expect that much variability in the bills though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Director Bush?
Yeah, I think I have kind of a similar question, like what if, they're anticipated that at the beginning of the year, it's gonna be low, and so the actual cost is higher than what they're paying. And then something unpredictable happens and charges significantly increase, or the cost significantly increase. Like in the second half of the year when they were supposed to catch up, and expect a discount or something like that, for example. What happens in that? One, I guess first is, how likely is that, unlikely that, that something like that could happen given the tariffs? And I'm just not sure, what else could significantly increase the cost of electricity. But if something like that happens, what happens to the bills if, they're kind of behind and there was an expectation that the cost would come down and they would catch up, and then it goes the opposite direction?
I will try to answer that and let me know if I don't. So one thing, you all are setting our rates and we don't change them that frequently. So hopefully there's no volatility in the rates there. In terms of what's impacting this, it's what's impacting customers' bills. It's mainly weather. So the weather throughout, summer and winter compared to the really mild spring and fall weather, that is more of a recurring basis. We don't see a lot of, that would be an exception that I think customers would handle, and the payment plan would catch up to it. Does that answer your question?
I think so. So essentially the costs would go up just more steadily instead of like a spike.
Yeah, and that's kind of actually the benefit of the program, is to protect customers who are budget constrained, to protect them against this unforeseen bill increase. That's the purpose of the program, or the benefit of it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yes, Director Rex.
Will they get a notice? Because these are people who obviously are looking at their bills, not just paying them because they enrolled in the budget billing. Will they get a notice that you are now enrolled in it also for PCE?
We have not gotten that far, but I'm sure we can do that, and probably would do that. I'm looking at Leslie, but yeah. We would definitely notify the customers they'd be enrolled in our program. Yeah, and we'll have collateral and, website material to talk to them as well.
Okay. Rick, Director DeGolia.
So do they have a option not to opt in, or are they forced in?
So we are going to be offering enrollment as a default enrollment. So basically, if they are enrolled in PG&E's.
I understand default enrollment, that's how we set up the entire CCA. But my question is, they have elected to participate in the PG&E program. Are we just informing them that their election to participate in the PG&E program automatically means they're also participating in our program? Or are we sending them a letter basically letting them know the process, but they have an ability to opt out of not participating?
Yeah, so we've talked about this. The way we are planning the program is to not allow an opt-out for two reasons. One, because, this program is we see it as a pretty neutral program. There's not a downside to this program to the customers enrolled in it. And so we're looking at it as a way for them. We can't really manage the enrollment separately. We could look into it as a part of our implementation plan.
I'll tell you where I'm coming from, which is, I know when we started PCE, one of the big objections represented only 2% of the people in the county. So it's not that big an objection. But one of the objections was that people were forced into it. But they did get 4 notices that each of them gave them the opportunity to opt out. In this one, they don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
It just
I don't know.
transitions.
That's kind of a due process concern for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand administratively that might make the most sense. And I'm not sure it's an objection, but it's a concern.
May I ask a question? When you say opt out, do you mean opt out of the program altogether or just stay with?
No, they
PG&E?
can't, we can't manage their decision with respect to PG&E.
Right.
They've opted into the PG&E bill paying program. But we're now telling them, since they opted into PG&E, they didn't know it at the time, but they're also included in the PCE. And it's, in the summer, it's certainly in their benefit. If they get that notice in the winter and their bill goes up, whatever, by $10 or $15, they may not.
If I, just as a, maybe a point of information, more regularly than not, we actually get customers maybe upset or angry that when they sign up for this program, the expectation is that their whole bill is gonna be covered. And then they get frustrated that this small part is still variable compared to the majority of the bill that's being covered by PG&E. And so that's really why we were interested when PG&E finally revamped it so that we could follow it. Made sense for us to try to pursue it. Yeah.
It's not an objection, but we all know, I mean, the other thing is it kind of forces us to continue being totally under the PG&E umbrella, right? Which is one thing struggling with. So I think it's a good thing for them.
Yeah.
I'm not objecting to it, but I have some concerns.
Yes, Director Nash? No? Okay, anyone else? Members of the public? Or anyone else? All right,
Need a motion?
this is an action item, yes. But yes, it is an action, yes, action item, we'll need a motion.
So moved.
Take a motion from Director Taylor,
Second.
second from Director, who was it?
Oh,
Was that it? Oh, Mackin. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
San Mateo County,
Yes.
San Mateo County,
Yes.
Atherton,
Yes.
Belmont,
Yes.
Brisbane,
Yes.
Burlingame,
Yes.
Palma,
Yes.
Daly City,
Yes.
East Palo Alto,
Yes.
Foster City.
Yes.
Half Moon Bay. Hillsborough,
Yes.
Los Banos,
Yes.
Menlo Park,
Yes.
Millbrae, Pacifica,
Yes.
Portola Valley, Redwood City,
Yes.
San Bruno,
Yes.
San Carlos, San Mateo,
Yes.
South San Francisco, Woodside.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, yay, we are just a few minutes over, not too bad, half an hour. Considering it's such a long meeting, sorry, I'm trying. My best. But with that, we have board member reports. If anybody has anything, but I just wanted to report out one thing, and I wanted to report it out because you all may be in the same spot. So we are reviewing our city fees, our citywide fees and permitting fees. And our council recommended to staff, and staff agreed, we are going to waive all fees for anything that has to do with electrification. So installation of any heat pump, water heater, everything, electric, stovetop, getting rid of a fireplace, anything that, you know, they weren't a lot, but it was still like $121 to get a permit to put in an electric dryer, for example. So we just went through and waived all that, and we're having them look at waiving permits for panel upgrades as well. So I'm hoping it'll, you know, we just feel like we want to have more carrots and less sticks, fewer sticks. So that was one of the ways that we felt we could offer some support to people who are trying to electrify. So maybe as you're looking through your city fees and revising them, you might just take a look and see what you're charging for those kinds of things and maybe consider removing those permit fees. Anyone else? Yes,
Menlo Park's been doing that and it's been very popular.
has it? Great, thank you, Director Nash. All right, if there are no other, then we'll have adjournment at 8:55.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.